Hey, everybody. Welcome to The Spectacle, the American Spectator's awesome podcast with Scott McKay, contributing editor and also editor of Reviver.com and also the Hayride.com. He is
and
author of the Conservative Manifesto.
Revivalist Manifesto.
Revivalist Manifesto. I can't read that far. And I forgot.
Okay, by now, I think, Melissa, you should have this memorized. But it's okay. We're going to give you a little bit of a refresher course because there is revivalism afoot. And we're going to talk about that in a second.
Is there? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you're optimistic. I'm Melissa Mackenzie, publisher of the American Spectator, who has so many things on her noggin, in her brain going off that I can't even remember one of the most important authors in the modern conservative age, his title of his epic book, Revivalist Manifesto. So go out there and buy it.
When the Obama book gets finished. So
yeah, you'll give me a second shot. So we were going to start with your dog. You wrote an article a couple weeks ago about your dog who has reached his elderly years, let's just say. And the joy he's brought to your life. He's doing better now. And in this day and age, like I was just thinking about during COVID, all the people who adopted animals and then dumped them after the pandemic and everybody went out back to work. And so these poor animals are, going to kill shelters and stuff. You, on the other hand, are a loyal dog owner who has grown with this guy. So it was a sweet piece that you wrote and something that is hopeful. That's one of the things we're trying to focus more on our podcast is hopeful, good stories. And so where do things stand right now with your canine?
Okay, so the dog's name is Mr. Bingle, which if you're from Louisiana or from New Orleans, that has like meaning. And if you're not, then it has like none. But basically, there's like this old, like when we were kids, there was sort of like this Christmassy cartoon that one of the department stores in New Orleans like sponsored. And Mr. Bingle was like, well, he was a, I don't know what Mr. Bingle was. He's like an elf or one of Santa's elves or something that came down to like give the kids toys or whatever for Christmas. And so this dog I got as a Christmas puppy after his predecessor died, like right before Christmas. And I was like, I'm going to go get a new dog for Christmas. Anyway, so it was a Christmas present. It's a Louisiana thing. So we decided to call him Mr. Bingle. And he's a terrific, awesome dog. Turned 8 in November. And, he's got like all kinds of things that are starting to go wrong. Like, I brought him into the vet a couple of weeks ago and he had a skin infection. He had a urinary tract infection. He's got a couple of like tumor things that are growing. And then, he was like when he would swallow or when he would eat, he was whining. I thought he had a bad tooth. Right. So bring him to the vet and it's like, no, his teeth are okay. And, so he's like, look, I need to knock him out so I can like look and see if it's in his throat or whatever. Well, he did. He's like, his epiglottis is like rock solid and it's huge. It's got, polypy stuff on it. He's got throat cancer. I'm like, no. So I go and I write the piece. But so what has happened since is the doc gave him prednisone, which is a steroid. And so I have a dog on steroids right now. And he is very much a dog on steroid. I mean, he is
hyper
hungry all the time. He's even thirstier than he is hungry. I mean, like I've gotten to the point where because as soon as he drinks an entire bowl of water, which he would do normally, now it's like he drinks an entire bowl of water, almost like he's got his paws and he's like lifting it up and slurping it out of So like I put ice cubes in his water to like, so he doesn't drink all of it. And then when the ice cubes melt, well, it used to be, he's like, okay, well, I'll wait until the ice cubes melt and then I'll drink the rest. Now he will chase the ice cubes around the bowl, licking them because he's so thirsty. He's like, oh, so you need more. Anyway, I'm constantly feeding the dog, giving him water, taking him outside, and he's full of energy. He's back to like when he was a puppy because of the steroids.
Right.
So as we record this, he's back at the vet for the checkup.
Mm.
We'll see what happens. I'm sure the news probably won't be great, but at this point, I mean, your dog has throat cancer. What are you going to do, right? You just enjoy every day, and like, so there's no bad news that he's not going to tell me, oh, you got to put the dog down. At some point, I probably will get that, and I mean, I'd say I've made my peace with it, but I haven't. I'm just kind of ignoring it. And it's okay. It's easy to do now because the dog is like really doing well. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's an old dog and he's going to have stuff wrong with him. I mean, and I think it's almost like a trade-off. An old dog knows what he has to do. Like, he knows the things that he can get away with and he knows the things that he can't. And that is so special when you have a dog that finally is to the point where, like, he's part of the family and he's an asset and not a liability. And it usually takes like a while for a dog to get there. Mm-hmm. Well, my dog's been that way for a while. And so it's just, it's like, I don't want to say it's a special time because that sounds so maudlin and I don't really want to go there. But the fact that I have this dog and he's coming to the finish line and he's a champion of a dog, and I like, all I can do is just appreciate this animal because he's a badass. He's terrific. Yeah. And so that's it. And, after he got diagnosed, I'm at Walmart getting stuff and they had like Valentine's Day stuffed animals and this giant 4-foot-long alligator. And I was like, I wonder if my dog will chew this to pieces as soon as he gets it, or if he'll actually like ignore it, or if he'll like it. Well, it's the third one, and he carries Gator around all over the place. Gator's as big as Bingle is, but he'll like pick him up by the scruff of his neck and he'll carry him around and bang him against the walls. It's hilarious, absolutely hilarious. So anyway, I'm totally enjoying my dog. Knowing that it's not the end of his life just yet, but we can probably almost see it from here. So, it's one of those things. We're on borrowed time, so we're going to enjoy it, and we are.
I think for people who are not pet lovers, like, they add so much to your life. Like, I think about I was anti-cat, but I had never owned cats. And I always owned dogs and always loved dogs. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm a dog person, but I'm also a cat person, as I found out. And we have these two. And I am convinced that the Egyptians worship these things because they didn't have TV back then. And they're just the best entertainment. I mean, they're so human in some of the things that they do. And it's fun to watch them. I'm sad in a way that what happened through COVID, the people let their animals go. On the other hand, it's a really good time to be looking for a nice full-bred cat or dog, because so many have been kind of given up. Right. And so, like, if you're inclined for an animal, now's the time.
Look, I mean, if we had some more space around here, I'd definitely go get another dog. I can't fit me and two dogs. I just can't do it. We'll see what happens at some point. I'd love to bring on a second one. But
you'll have to graduate you'll have to, as you get older, get smaller animals. Like, be one of those.
I don't think I can do that. I like big dogs. No, I've always
I like big dogs too.
When I was a kid, we've had big dogs, and the big dogs are, to me, the big dogs are just, they're more laid back, so you don't get the yapping.
Yeah.
The little dogs with the yapping, I can't.
I don't know. I had a Shih Tzu. One of my best dogs is a Shih Tzu. God bless him. His name was Winston. Not too bright, but he was not a yapper at all. And he traveled everywhere with us. Like, we'd put him in the car. He was great. That little dog loved running in the snow. We could go for a couple-mile run. He'd run with us. He'd go on the plane with us and be like, we wouldn't have to even sedate him. He would just get on there and be like, what's going on? So like, he was a good companion, and he wasn't like, he didn't mind getting dirty. Like, he wasn't Like I've seen some little dogs who are like, ew, I'm not going to get on the grass or anything. But he wasn't like that at all. So I think there are some that can be good, but
Oh,
yeah,
I'm sure.
I prefer a big dog too.
All
Yeah.
of my neighbors who have small dogs have
Hmm.
yappers.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of them. Now, I think there's a common thread through the humans
Yeah.
that probably accounts for the yapping.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm not going to say any more about that, but it is what I mean. The dog is a reflection of its owner. My dogs don't bark, like they don't
Yeah.
bark, because
Mine
as
don't either.
puppies, I make it very clear that the barking doesn't
Yeah.
like that. We don't like the barking. And,
Yeah.
by the time they're, here 3 or 4 months, what barking there was usually stops. But what
Yeah.
I find is boxers, and Bingle's a boxer, his predecessor was a boxer, Wally was a boxer. They're not big barkers. They make
I don't know. I think
noise.
it depends.
Well, the ones I've had, and like friends of mine who are boxers, like they're not big bark. They do make noise. Like
Yeah.
there are
They
various
drool on
whines
everything.
and sighs and snorts and all these other kinds of things that they do. They're verbal, but they're not big barkers.
Yeah.
So which I think is kind of cool. And when they are barking, it means that there is something going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which the yapping, it just happens, and
Yeah.
it's
I
like,
know.
okay, it has to stop because I'm going to kill you.
Right.
And
Yeah. I feel the exact same way. I can't abide it.
no,
That and
it's,
and an animal that is not potty trained. I can't abide that either. What some people I know put up with, those are two things: the barking and the,
I have
personal
neighbors,
hygiene.
and it's like, oh, look, here comes the carpet place with the delivery guys to install the new carpet, and here comes the old carpet, and woo, go back inside until this gets hauled away, because wow, maybe you should potty train your dog. Oh, I tried anyway.
Yeah, no.
Bad owner is what this is.
Yeah, bad owner.
Yeah. So
Okay, so moving along here, you had something else that you wanted to very much talk about beforehand, and I can't remember what it was because of the aforementioned losing my mind.
we have, and I'll just read this, but it's like
Yeah.
a Daily Mail piece.
Mm.
But here we go, because this is big stuff. A final batch of court documents related to pedophile
yeah.
Jeffrey Epstein's associates and salacious allegations against them could be released in the coming weeks, some 4 years after the disgraced financier's death. A report claims the documents will name at least one public figure and will be made public within the coming months, according to a filing reviewed by the Daily Mail. The records are likely to reveal hundreds of alleged perpetrators and individuals accused of serious wrongdoings, as well as Epstein's victims and employees. See, I never thought we would get to see the list. This says we will get to see the list. So I don't know.
I'm suspicious. And the thing is, at this point, the feds could put anyone on this list. Anyone they want to get rid of could be on this list. And how would we know the difference?
That's true.
I mean, unless they completely, you remember when they accused Trump's attorney Cohen of being in Paris at a specific date and time, and he's like, was it Prague?
Yeah, it was Prague.
And the guy was like, I wasn't there, and his alibi was like airtight, and it was like, this is not real and true at all. I mean,
it was the only Michael Cohen alibi that was airtight.
Exactly. All the rest of them
else was bullshit, but that one was true.
That one was right. Right. Well, I kind of feel like we might be in a situation like this with this list to, verify all these people, because I don't believe anything that's coming out of our own government. So who is gonna release this information? That's what I'm curious about.
Well, apparently, I mean, it's court documents. So
the court documents themselves.
Apparently so.
And here's my other question. If they have, because they have all these diaries, and remember the FBI or whatever said they lost the diaries and they lost the videotapes, because Epstein had cases of video.
Oh yeah. That's sitting in a vault someplace. That guy, he's got video of every one of his Johns having sex with these underage girls.
Oh yeah.
And that was the game. That was the entire game, is that he put you on his plane. He brought you somewhere. whether it was the ranch in New Mexico or Little St. James Island, or even his house in New York that he had, all of it was wired for video. And so you'd go, oh yeah, yeah, go do our deal. And you would have sex with a 16-year-old. And then he would show you the video and say, okay, in one hand, I have this. In the other hand, I'm going to make you your 8.5% with the spiders that I'm going to put all your money into. And you're going to get a very average return against the stock market. But you get to get on the plane anytime you want. And you get to do that right here that I'm showing you on video. You get to do that anytime you like. And they were like, well, I'm a perv enough to have done it in the first place, so I choose door B. And that's how he had all of his people. And it wasn't until Epstein got in trouble that any of these guys really freaked out about it, right? Because, you know, I mean, they were scumbags to begin with. They knew who Jeffrey Epstein was, and they couldn't wait to get on that plane. And then he blackmailed them, and they were okay with it because there was, you know, it's like blackmail with a carrot. And like that was this guy's scam. The problem is that the girls ultimately didn't like it.
Well, the thing is, so like Bill Gates was on the Epstein plane a lot. And so my question about all of this is, are we going to have any other prosecutions of these disgusting creeps? Doubt it.
Well, here's the thing. If you prosecute any of these people, you're going to have to prosecute Bill Clinton.
Right.
And they won't prosecute Bill Clinton. You know? I mean, they won't. So, you know, and I think it's going to be really hard. And not to mention the fact that if you went to Pedophile Island and you did all this and whatever, these guys were drinking with each other at the bar before they did it. Like, these guys would say, oh, yeah? Well, let me tell you who else was there. Okay. Right. And it's such a mess that these guys are all, I mean, it's like you can't, what are you going to do? You're going to prosecute 200 people? I mean, I doubt it, right?
I mean,
I really doubt it. They should. Don't get me wrong, but I doubt that's going to happen. The one I'm interested in seeing whether or not he gets prosecuted is this guy, Les Wexner, who was the guy who owned the Limited and Victoria's Secret and all these other ones.
Yeah.
Because he was like, he was like Epstein's #1 financial client. And he was like in on all of the stuff. Like, I think he had a piece of the Epstein's plane, I want to say. And of course, you know, Wexner's deal was like they hired models for the Limited and Victoria's Secret and all that. Like that was like, he owned the company. So I'm not sure. I think I saw this in one of the documentaries that they did about Epstein, was like they held it out there. Hey, if you want to be a Victoria's Secret model, like this is the quickest way to go, because like we recruit from, you know, this group of people and you don't have to go through all these modeling agencies or whatever. So like, I don't know. But the point is that if anybody's going to get prosecuted from this, I would think that Wexner would have a problem. But that, you want to talk about somebody's mobbed up with Democrat politicians, is Les Wexner. That guy's like, he and the Clintons are tight. And I want to say he was tight with Obama too. Yeah. So if he gets prosecuted, then you know they're serious.
Yeah, I don't think anything's going to come of it. By the way, do you think that we are with, I'm totally changing directions now, but the reason why it came up was just like powerful people. Then I went to the Mossad. Then I went to what's happening in Ukraine and Russia. This is how my mind works for you people who are watching. I'm going through this. I happen to be in Florida right now. I've come to the Gulf Coast for years and I'm working from here, but I have a condo right on the beach for the moment. And so I'm kind of used to, there's an Air Force base right here in Fort Walton Beach, and I'm used to their kind of rhythms. And I've been here 2 days, Scott, and the fighter jets are doing things they've never done in all my over 40 years. I have been to this area.
You mean they're out shooting down all the commercial weather balloons that are running around in the sky?
Well, no, I don't know what they're doing, but like in previous, just so for the listeners here can get an idea, in the past, you would have the Air Force is always, it's the Air Force is always patrolling the Gulf. along the shoreline. And so like in the morning, you would have 2 fighter jets go by, and then maybe around noon, and then around sunset. It was pretty typical. And you might see some military helicopters also, kind of zip by. Well, what I've been seeing this time is completely different. Now, I don't know if they've changed up how they're training pilots or what they're doing, but I've seen them doing active maneuver drills in the sky, looking out here.
Dogfighting and stuff like that?
Practicing dogfighting.
Okay.
I've never in the 40, 50 years, for probably 40 years I've been coming down here, have ever seen it. And I was like, yesterday, I was like, holy shit, here they are practicing dogfighting, like right outside, I'm on the 16th floor here, and I'm like, holy cow. Mm-hmm. And so this is new. Everything is new. And I was like, what is going on? I have never seen.
It's not a time of year thing. I mean, are you there at a different time of year than y'all usually are, or no? I
have been here all times of the year in the past. I've been coming here. I've probably been here. I was trying to add up easily 30, 40 times, over the years, and different times. I've been here at Christmas. I've been here at Thanksgiving. I've been here over the summer. I've been in the fall, spring, winter. And so it's always been different. So I don't know. You're right. That could be a thing, but it just,
it could be, whatever, some kind of Top Gun camp thing that's being done.
It could be.
Or, it could be that the military is gearing up because it's only a matter of days or weeks before the Russians send 300,000 fresh troops into the Ukraine war. And the fact of the matter is, they're gonna get what they came for in Ukraine unless we escalate that war, because we have wasted the whole winter when we should have been at the peace table trying to put this thing to bed. Mm-hmm. Instead, we just kept spending money on the Ukrainians, knowing, because Putin drafted those kids 6 months ago, mm-hmm. and he's been running them through training for 6 months. Now they're ready. And God knows how much Chinese and Iranian military hardware he's bought to put in with those guys, all of which is crap, and our old stuff beats it. We already proved that. But there's 300,000 additional Russian troops going up against what's left of the Ukrainian army. This is going to be a disaster. One of the 2 things are going to have to happen. Either those pilots from Fort Walton Beach and a whole bunch of other ones are going to have to go redeploy over to Europe and start, imposing air superiority, which means going to war against the Russians, which is not in our national interest. We're better off the Russians just take Ukraine than for us to be in a hot war with Russia right now. The Russians are gonna take Ukraine, and when Putin takes it, that's it. Like, he's not gonna. Once he's beaten the Ukrainian military, and they're like, it's free fall and those guys are on the run or whatever, he'll go take Kiev, and he'll go take, mm-hmm. all the way to the border. The mm-hmm. Moldovan president is now saying that the Russians are staging a coup in Moldova, which is on the other side of Ukraine from Russia. Mm-hmm. So, essentially the whole northern
and we have troops there, by the way.
We have troops there. And the whole northern coast of the Black Sea at that point would be under Russian control.
And I think that Putin's, one of his generals was talking about Poland. Now, Poland would be a trickier business
Poland's
for them.
Part of NATO. Okay,
Poland is part of NATO.
It gets hot when you start talking Poland.
Right.
Like that, at that point, now we really, and here's the thing. Now we know we blew up the Nord Stream pipelines. Like, we know that. We lied about it. We did it. We knew it when it happened.
Did you think, for me, like, this is the thing that I find so annoying about some of the talking heads and commentators. It was the only logical.
Of course it was.
Biden basically said he was doing it. Not basically. He said he was going to do it. Why would we think anybody else did it when we have these? It's just crazy.
It was absolutely, and the thing is we dragged the Norwegians into this.
Yeah.
And there is, and I was trying to remember this earlier and I can't. There was a show on Netflix. I think, the name of the show is Occupied. And it's a Norwegian show. I don't know if you've been paying attention. The Norwegians make the best movies. I
have not been paying attention.
They make great stuff. I mean, like their stuff is better than Hollywood. Anyway, and this is from 5-6 years ago, this Occupied show. And it basically, the scenario is that Norway elects a Green New Deal idiot president, okay? And basically it's like, we're going to shut down the oil fields off the coast because it's bad for the environment. And we found a deposit of thorium that we can then use to make really, really super efficient, basically nuclear fusion energy, which is all crap. But I mean, let's just like the plot of the show. So we're going to have the same energy stuff, but it'll all be renewable. You don't need the oil, whatever. And the Europeans are like, we kind of need Norwegian oil, so this is good, right? And essentially what happens is this guy announces he's doing all this stuff, and the Russians immediately invade the country and take over. They're like, no. We're going to take your oil because if you're not using it, then somebody else can. And so that's the deal. And the show is the Russians coming in and taking over Norway. And then, all kinds of things happen. And it's some of it's stupid, but it's not a boring plot anyway. But so the Norwegian people have had this on their mind, right? The Russians might actually invade us. We've been invaded before, right? They're close, they could do it. And yet the Norwegians helped us bomb the Nord Stream pipeline, is apparently what Seymour Hersh had in his report. Which, I always thought the Norwegians were as neutral as the day is long. And here they are helping us bomb the Nord Stream pipeline. I'm going, did these guys, what is this? Life imitates art? What, do you guys want to get invaded? Because I can tell you, Joe Biden is not going to protect Norway if the Russians decide to invade.
You don't think so?
Well, put it this way. How effective would he be? Then again, the Russians can't invade Ukraine, much less Norway. So maybe it isn't that big a deal. But all of this stuff should be in the realm of fantasy. It shouldn't be something that we're actually talking about.
Right.
And there's a whole bunch. This is not just me complaining about Biden. By now, the Europeans should be in the middle of a defense buildup.
But they're not.
No, there's no evidence of that whatsoever. And this is after 4 years of Trump screaming at them, hey, pull your weight in NATO, right? The other thing about Occupied is that the Americans get sick and tired of trying to get the Europeans to pull their weight. And so they're just we're out. The whole point is the Americans we're done.
Nope out of Europe generally.
Yeah, they're just nah, we don't need this anymore because you guys aren't worth our trouble, right? So in other words, the Americans really aren't there to help the Norwegians when the Russians invade. Because we're just whatever. And so there's an American diplomat. And of course, that's the gay character. it's the U.S. ambassador in Norway is the gay guy, right? So of course it is. Which I think was more of kind of shot across our bow, oh, by the way, you guys make the woke movies, so you get the gay ambassador. And he's not a good gay ambassador. He ain't Rick Grinnell, put it that way.
Yeah.
So anyway, but it amazes me that we're where we are now. We're a year into this war. Okay. Everybody knows the Russians are coming with another 300,000 troops.
Right.
Right. And nobody in NATO has done anything. I mean, other than the Germans are now selling tanks, I guess, to the Poles, which is really just the Germans.
Not new ones though, right? It's old, isn't it?
It's old crap.
Yeah.
But you can't turn your nose up at that because old NATO crap beats new Russian stuff.
Wow.
like that's what we learned for a year in Ukraine is like we threw the circa 1995 gear at the Ukrainians and they kicked the shit out of the Russians with it. You know, and the Ukrainians are not, I mean, these are not Attila the Hun's descendants per se. I mean, like there's nothing special about the Ukrainians. It's just that their gear is better because our gear from 30 years ago is better than, current Russian gear.
Yeah.
I don't think that offsets 300,000 fresh troops.
Yeah.
Because the Ukrainians don't have it. Like, they don't have it. And I mean,
well, okay, so we have, while this is happening, we have this whole mess in Europe that Germany seems to not care about and seems unconcerned. The rest of Europe has their, they're just whatever.
Other than Boris Johnson going all over the world trying to drum up support for Ukraine, which he is doing for a paycheck.
Oh, yeah. Right.
But there is, I mean, like the amount of, and I'm not saying the Europeans ought to be, jingoistic and let's go have a redo of World War I. I'm not saying that. I'm amazed that these guys are not like, well, they're preferring some unemployment by drafting people into the army and at least presenting a front that kind of cows Putin a little bit. And none of them have done anything about that.
They want Russian gas, though. That's the thing.
Well, we kind of fixed that, didn't we?
Well, tried to, but everybody's being.
There are other pipelines, but
right. So then, meanwhile, on our own shores, we have the Chinese. I guess we're saying it's the Chinese sending across
not anymore, we're not. We were saying that over the weekend. We were saying that this was all Chinese stuff, and now we're like, well. And it's starting to sound like a sheepish admission that what we've been shooting down over the weekend were commercial weather balloons.
Seriously?
Yeah, like that was the last thing that I heard.
Yeah, but I don't believe. I mean, I don't know about that because I've seen like the regular weather balloons. Have you seen those?
The first Chinese one was the first one, the one that made it all the way across the country. That was a Chinese one.
Right.
Number 2, 3, and 4.
They're just shooting weather balloons.
Like they're commercial balloons, which I'm assuming are weather balloons. Maybe it's a commercial spy balloon, I guess, or something.
Well, we sent was it like over 100,000 of those up worldwide get sent up every day. It's so weird to me, and they would know that, right? They would know that how they look and everything.
Unless what this is it's a wag the dog scenario where it's like, well, go shoot something down so it looks like we're
doing something.
I mean, but balloon number 3, was shot down over Canada in consultation with Fidelito Trudeau in Canada. So I guess he's in on the game too. Hey, I'm tough. I participated in shooting down a weather balloon over Yukon.
I don't know. The thing is, so like NORAD is tracking all of this stuff. I don't know if I'm surely the people listening to this podcast understand what NORAD is, that it's a joint operations center. So like when Trudeau tries to act like the tough guy, NORAD is located in Colorado. There's Canadian officers there. There's American officers there, and it's joint operations.
Yeah.
Basically protecting the continent. And the decisions are made together, but Trudeau acting like he's, cowboy making these decisions. It's just,
it's ludicrous.
It's ludicrous. That's not how the commercial where it's like, that's not how any of this works. Right. I was like thinking when he was saying this, I'm like, that's not how any of this works.
Melissa, you need to tell Queen Karine that because I don't think she knows. And she's basically the one, well, now it's John Kirby who's the one that's the official mouthpiece for this, because for whatever reason, Joe Biden has taken a powder and is no longer around. I don't know if you've noticed that. He had one press conference appearance after the State of the Union that went really badly. And then Joe Biden has vominosed. He is gone. Like Joe, there is no more Joe Biden. He is in wherever he is, Rehoboth or somewhere. But Joe Biden is out of the picture and is no longer in a position to tell us what time it is. And so now
they do that with him though, whenever he does something like particularly stupid, which the State of the Union itself was stupid, the questions after stupid. And then his favorables tank, you know, it's almost like clockwork. They put him away in the basement and then his favorables go back up again, as long as nobody has seen him.
Yeah, well, there's that. Plus, he had like a day or two after the State of the Union, he had a press avail where he was clearly non-compos mentis. And they just like, okay, that's it. And I, you know, like, this is my thing. Because I watched the State of the Union from like I watched it the C-SPAN feed, like the raw feed.
Right. That's what I do too. Yeah.
I didn't watch the Fox News thing or whatever.
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah.
When Biden on that feed, when Biden came in, they had the close shot of him as he's walking in, shaking everybody's hands or whatever. Right. And something I noticed with Biden is when he has like a primetime speech or something like that. Joe Biden's pupils are huge. They fill up his eye and they're jet black, which, as I'm told, is exactly what happens when you're on like amphetamines. So they hop him up to do these speeches because otherwise he'd just, you know, he'd be Joe Biden.
He'd be tired, Jack.
Sundown Joe. So
Sundown Joe, they gotta wake him up.
They really tanked him up because he hung around after that speech, which was 73 minutes, for 20 minutes, bullshitting with all the Democrat Congress people.
Right.
And was not incoherent at that point. So he had enough gas in the tank to get out of there after 20 minutes. And he has been total, other than this one really awful press conference, he's been total for a whole week. You know, there's no Joe Biden, which tells me they tanked him up, but good for the State of the Union. And he's been recovering from that ever since. Okay. That's just a theory of mine.
He could be dead. We wouldn't know. The thing is that, like, I wonder seriously how long they would tell us before, you know, and then we have Kamala. Oh,
it'd be like the Woodrow Wilson scenario. They carried that off for like 18 months. He's fine. He's just resting. It's like, he's been resting for a year.
Right.
And Edith Wilson ran the country. And it was like, you know, because the president had stroked out and he was, you know, basically drooling into a bedpan for a year and a half. It was like, which was no worse than Woodrow Wilson at his best.
Right.
Less damage was done.
Right.
At that point. I don't know if you could say the same thing for Biden because he never ran the country to begin with.
No, that's just it. He could go and would it matter? And the thing is Kamala Harris is a placeholder. So you have these two people who are basically just, you know, mindless puppets. And
right. And that's the scary thing, right? Because basically at this point, you know, this regime is communicating to the public through Queen Karine and John Kirby, who's like the Baghdad Bob of Washington, D.C.
Right.
I mean, like you talk about, and I wrote that this morning. These two people have absolutely zero credibility with the American people at all. Like none. When they say something, everyone in America is like, I can't trust that's true.
Well, Kirby, Karine is stupid and Kirby is a liar. So Kirby is not stupid. He's just a liar. Right. And so
she's incapable of saying anything that's not in that binder they give her. Right. Other than, you know, I have an announcement to make. It's a huge thing. We just hired Ben LeBolt as the communications director for the White House. And this is a big deal because he's the first openly gay communications director the White House has ever had. And everybody's like, so like, it's now a big deal. Like every single job in the federal government that a gay guy takes, we have to have a parade because a gay guy got the job. Like it's over. It's done. We freaking hire gay people, black people, Hispanic people, women. Like everybody's qualified by, their identity for a job now. We get it, right? Like, how about hiring some people who have some degree of competence? That would be new, wouldn't it?
My favorite gay Biden administration member is Pete Buttigieg. He's just, wow. He's so.
Don't live in Ohio and say that.
Yeah.
See what that does for you.
Well, the thing is, it's like, that's just another debacle. I mean, it's been one thing after another for that department.
It's a systematic taking apart of the transportation and logistics system in America. It started with the boats, the ships waiting at the pier, and then it went to the airports. And then there were the racist highways that we're going to try to get rid of. And now we got trains derailing 2 and 3 a day with chemical clouds of stuff. I'd still love to know who made the call. Hey, let's take this vinyl chloride and dump it in a ditch and light that shit on fire and see what happens. And it's like, woof, here's the big black satanic cloud.
Right.
Like, and now all the fish are dead and all of the chickens are dead. And it's like, oh yeah, don't worry, guys, the air tests out great. And I'm sitting there going, I don't want to hear the EPA tell me one more damn thing. Like, go talk some more about the freaking climate when it's like the coldest winter we've had through here in a while.
Right.
Meanwhile, there's a big black satanic cloud over East Palestine, Ohio. All right. That is killing all the water is freaking toxic, and the chickens are all dying on top of the other chickens that have been dying all over the country, and nobody can get eggs. But you guys are like, oh, but it's the climate. And I'm like, none of you are serious people. Okay. No. None of you are serious. Every one of you sucks at your job and needs to be fired, like right now, which is a segue into something that I really want to talk about, because I know
we've got 5 minutes. Make it quick.
So there was a Daily Caller piece that traded off a Politico piece from, I guess the Politico piece must have been over the weekend. Vivek Ramaswamy is thinking about running for president. Now, I'm not saying he's the guy, okay? But what I am going to say is the 2 books that he's written about woke corporate America and kind of taking back the culture from the woke stuff are brilliant books. And back in December, when Turning Point USA had their annual, I guess America Fest is what they call it, he gave a speech at this thing that's 25 minutes that is so good. And it is so much worth watching. And in fact, I think maybe next week's podcast, we should, like, Melissa, you should watch it, and then we can talk about it, because he lays out an agenda of, hey, as conservatives, this is what we need to fight for going forward. Yeah. It is so spot on. And I mean, I'm sitting there going, I need to get this guy a copy of the Revivalist Manifesto.
He's probably read it.
He's talking about my stuff. But it's so good. It's all about taking back, from woke tyranny. It's about decentralizing power in our cultural and economic and political institutions. It's about getting rid of the managerial elite, especially within the government, that is just doing everything they can to stop people from being able to live their lives. And it's all for free speech. Okay,
so what's this guy's name again?
Vivek Ramaswamy. He's the guy who Strive, I think, is the name of his hedge fund that is directly doing battle against BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard. I mean, this guy, he's a half of I don't know what he is. He's half a billionaire at this point, and he's a millennial. The guy's in his 30s. And it's his parents were immigrants from India, and he grew up in Ohio. And the guy, I mean, I don't think he's a legit presidential candidate, but I damn sure would love to see him run, say, against Sherrod Brown for the Senate in Ohio next year. Oh my God, he'd be fabulous. This guy is terrific. He really is good, and I think we need to pay more attention to him.
Okay. Well, I'm going to watch that, and then we can talk about it more next time. Yeah. The thing I want to conclude with, we've got a couple minutes left. I want to tell you, all of you people who are watching us here right now, if you are finding us on Twitter or through Google or Facebook or whatever, it's a miracle, because according to the Washington Examiner's investigative reporting, the American Spectator, is one of the top 10 most
Infamous.
I am
Like
struggling
El
for the
Guapo, we're infamous.
Yeah, we're infamous as evidently the left thinks we're purveyors of disinformation, which means we're purveyors of truth because they disagree with what we're writing. And so what that has meant is there's a nonprofit in England that the State Department is funding, by the way. And what they do is they make a blacklist, different sites to make it so that you can't get advertising, like advertisers warning advertisers off. So like, I know what our advertising is at the American Spectator. It has dropped precipitously in the last 3 years in particular. Yep. And so this is one of the reasons why we are literally being targeted for suppression. So I found out some years ago through Daily Caller Foundation had done a report. We are in the top 10 of Google executive had created a list of organizations who cannot be on Google News. The American Spectator was one of them. And for whatever reason, and Scott, this is something that I just can't quite fathom because our reach, like compared to some of the other journalistic organizations on the right, is relatively small compared to, some of our competitors who have far bigger footprints.
Look, this happened. I mean, Google killed the Hayride, which is my Louisiana. They killed our AdSense account back in 2011. Yeah, and they've been suppressing us in search and in in all of these other things. I mean, since 2017, and it's not just Google; it's Facebook, and it's a lot of the advertising digital ad networks. I mean, we've been getting slaughtered on this, and I think it's an independent media problem more than it is an ideological problem, because there are people on the left that have this problem too. But there's no question there's an ideological bias here.
Yeah, no.
Conservatives harder.
Yeah, I mean, you're being awfully generous here. I've seen.
Well, what I'm saying is they don't like independent media at all, because corporate media and big tech have been in cahoots since 2017 at least. But there's the ideological bias makes it much worse. And the other piece to it is that the left-wing independent media people get grants from the Soros people and all that, so they can.
They get it through the government. They get through the government. They get government grants.
Society Foundation and all these other people have grants for media,
right?
Whereas on the conservative side, we have no platforms for monetization like that. So, like, we actually need y'all's support.
That's right.
Keep things going.
So the thing is that when we're asking you to like or share or subscribe, most of all subscribe, so that you can support the readers, the writers that we have. It costs money to do all of this. And without you, it doesn't happen. We don't have the resources that the left has, and we're actively being suppressed by people with money on the left and the US government. And it sounds crazy to say, like, it just sounds crazy to say, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
And it's not imagined. So, like, even in our email, for example, so if we get put on a blacklist by Google, you don't even see it in your inbox. So I've had readers of the American Spectator saying, Melissa, why did you stop sending me the Dan Flynn's really awesome morning email? I'm like, you're on the list. If you're not receiving it, it's being flagged as spam. Check your trash, check your spam folder.
Yeah, we've absolutely had that at the Hayride.
Yeah.
For years, we've fought it, particularly with Google and Yahoo email addresses.
Right. So
this is a real thing. This is not just, publishers.
Not just
this actually happens.
This actually happens. And so, like, if you see an advertisement from the American Spectator, say on like Facebook, you have no idea. For every one that gets accepted, there's probably 10 that we get turned down. The amount of time, energy, and resources that we put toward just getting the message out, that the left doesn't have to do because everything gets approved just immediately. So like every step of the way to get you this kind of media, the left is throwing sand in the gears. They are complete totalitarians. So like I was having this conversation with an editor of another right-leaning organization. And I said, I don't give a crap what the left is doing. I don't want to fund an organization to actively suppress them, but that's not true on the other side. And so you readers and you people who are watching or listening to this as a podcast, you're critical. Without you, we really cease to exist. It's difficult to find us unless you're actively looking for us. We try to make that better with it, like some of the advertising that we do, but even still, we're suppressed. And I was one of the first people to figure out, and I figured this out almost a year ago, that on Twitter, as another example, I was getting more engagement when I made my Twitter profile private. And I have around 50,000 people who follow. And all of a sudden, people who hadn't seen my stuff for months and months and months, who thought I had left Twitter. I had somebody say to me, he goes, well, where have you been? Did you leave politics? I'm like, I haven't gone anywhere. But if you're not seen, if your stuff is being suppressed, you cease to exist in this digital world. And that is what all of these, and so now, Elon in the last week or two is aware of this problem, right? But I put my account private for months, had increased engagement, put it public again, my engagement has dropped again. And so this is a constant issue. And this is where the readers themselves make a difference. What you do makes a difference. And probably for the American Spectator, as much or more than anyone on the right. And for some reason, and here's the crazy thing, Scott, the American Spectator, in my opinion, we're just the same old right-leaning place we've always been. We haven't moved. The culture, though, has moved. And even the culture on the right has moved. We haven't. Like, if you went and said, what did Ronald Reagan believe? And you went and looked at what we cover at the American Spectator, you wouldn't find, it's just mainline
There's
thought.
Not a lot of evolution there. Yeah, that's right.
No, and the thing is, it's not radical. This is just what average Americans have always thought, in my opinion. But that's being suppressed. And just what it meant to be an average, happy warrior American is now worthy of suppression in this crazy world that we're in.
Yeah.
So I'm asking if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed. I'm asking if you are watching this and you haven't shared the work that we do, or you haven't subscribed to the channel, which costs you nothing, by the way. If you haven't, sharing our content costs you nothing. It helps us. And then actually subscribing at the site. You can go to spectator.org/subscribe, or you can give more. You can give on our foundation side, and it's a charitable donation. You are making a difference. The costs have only increased, and the ways that we have, the maintenance and everything else that we have to do to keep this going, it's not free. So please, if you can, help us. And know that we're not asking to make tons of money or whatever. All we're doing is trying to break even and get a product out for people and spread the truth, and in a way, things that you won't hear anywhere else. And evidently the left thinks that we are dangerous enough that they feel like on every platform they have to suppress us. I don't get it really, because we have erudite, brilliant writers who are intellectual and insightful, and yet somehow our very mainline views that are expressed are controversial and worthy of suppression. So
this is the game, and they're playing it, and they're playing it very hard. And if we want to stay in the game, we're going to have to play hard too, which that involves you guys.
Yeah.
So, smash that like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel and Rumble, Spotify, all these other places. We need your help. Share this around to your buddies. Because, active engagement on your part can defeat a lot of what the left is doing to us. And look, it's just a matter of time before they're going to try to step it up and just shut us down altogether. And when they do that, okay, that's the end of the America that you know. And I'm not just saying this about the Spectator or this podcast or any of that, but when dissenting voices in this country can't be heard because they're suppressed, okay? And look, at the Hayride, we have fought this for a decade because, we're like a small independent site. And they have done everything they could to throttle us and put us out of business. So I've been in this fight for a decade at least. And the Spectators in it has been for a while as well, but now we really know how bad it is. This is what it is. If you actually want to speak out against these people, if you don't want to be, pet conservative, people like the Bulwark or some of these guys that just totally sell out. And if
which aren't suppressed, by the way, they're not suppressed. You can go look at the list. They're not suppressed. And why?
Those are the pet conservatives. And look, I see it in comments and everything else. You guys hate those people. Well, those are the ones that they want to make your voice on the internet and in media or whatever, is those guys. Well, we're not that, okay? And so that means we've got targets on our back. And we need you guys to have our back. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, that's the way it's going to work. Well, thank you all for listening. I appreciate it. Scott, this has been another Headbanger. We'll talk about your Ohio guy next time after we've all watched that video and gotten to know him a little bit more. And, thank you for all of you for showing up and sharing this. And we'll see you next week. We record on Tuesdays. And please keep the comments, rolling in. We appreciate it, and give us feedback. So thank you all. We'll see you.
See you guys next week.